Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This time we'll be making the world's best, crunchiest mini chocolate chip cookies. Let's get baking. The best part about these cookies is that it only requires 4 ingredients including the chocolate. First, starting with the butter, we'll be taking room temperature butter, chopping it into small cubes, and the quantity would be half a cup, that is 115 grams. Using an electric beater, we will beat the butter until it's light and fluffy, and of course we want it to be pale in color. Now this is the most important step. Why we beat the butter so much is only so that we get the cookies to be light and airy. So this will roughly take about 3 to 5 minutes. This is the final color and exactly what we are looking for. Using the same bowl, here we will be taking half a cup of icing sugar, which is about 120 grams. And notice that I'm not using the weighing scale this time. Of course, you might be wondering as to why. The reason being that it's not necessary to be exact in your measures in this recipe. Let us go ahead and sieve the icing sugar, making sure we do not have any lumps. Now we don't want any of the icing sugar flying out of the bowl before we whisk it. We will be using the spatula. And using the spatula, we will gather all the icing sugar into the butter, just mixing it lightly before we start using the electric beater. Again, whisking it for a good 2 to 3 minutes, we will incorporate all of the icing sugar into the butter until it's again light and fluffy. Our third ingredient, of course, is the all-purpose flour. Here we will take 1 cup of flour. Again, I am not measuring it in grams, although the weight would be 125 grams. And it's equally important to sieve the flour as well, of course to remove all the impurities, but at the same time it also helps to make the cookies light and airy. Now before using the electric beater, we will combine the flour into the butter and sugar mixture lightly, just to make sure we don't want the flour flying out of the bowl. Now taking our electric beater, we will get the remaining butter on the blades into the dough with a quick whisk, making sure we do not overbeat it. Now with the help of the spatula, we will gather all the crumbs on the sides of the bowl, scraping it and forming it into one big ball of dough. At this point, if you notice that your dough is ever so lightly sticky, that is if it's sticking to the spatula, we will just take 1 tablespoon of flour at a time and add it to the dough. Now remember, we are not kneading the dough, we are only lightly mixing the dry flour into the dough. Now we will add in the chocolate chips into the dough. Taking a 1/4 cup of the mini chocolate chips, we will be using only half of it into the dough and the rest half as a topping on the cookies. It's important to note at this point that the cookie dough is not sticking to the spatula anymore, which is a perfect dough. Now taking in our baking tray lined with the parchment paper, making sure we do not want the cookies to be baked directly on the tray. We will take the remaining chocolate chips as a topping for the cookies. Now, just like how we would have to dust the platform to roll out a cookie dough, we are going to sprinkle just a wee bit of flour onto the dough so that it does not stick to the parchment paper and it's easy to work with. Making a log out of the dough, we will divide it into 2 halves, keeping aside 1 half. This is a simple trick of working with the dough where I don't have to use a placemat or a platform to work on. Now, forming a log out of the dough, we will divide it into 2 halves, and each half will be divided into a quarter, and each quarter into 3 portions. This way we don't have to worry about the size of the dough for each cookie, and also it saves a whole lot of time trying to get the equal size cookie dough. Now similarly we will use the rest of the dough and make the equal portions of the cookie dough. Now taking the chocolate chips, we will top the cookie doughs with them and gently pressing them down into the cookie dough. These will go into the preheated oven at 170 degrees Celsius for about 15 to 18 minutes. Now coming to the mini version of the chocolate chip cookies, I had kept aside a separate batch of dough. Now reminding you again that the aluminum tray is not good to be baked on directly. It is ideal to use a parchment paper or butter paper. Now taking the dough and divide it equally just like I had shown you in the previous batch. This time we will divide them and portion them into mini bite-sized cookie dough. These will also go into the oven, which is preheated at 170 degrees Celsius and will be baked for about 15 to 16 minutes until the edges are light brown. And here they are, freshly baked, world's best crispy mini chocolate chip cookies. Aren't these the cutest? I feel like popping them in my mouth right away. And the best part is, of course, in the snap. And they look so tempting. I'm sure the kids will want to grab them by the handful. And not to mention the aroma that's in the house right now. I feel like I'm in a bakery. They are simply so light and crunchy, you will not want to stop at one. And the next thing you know, they'll be all gone in a jiffy. And don't forget, if you haven't heard the snap, you haven't tried the best yet. And these cookies can come in handy for your tea time break or even with your guests. So go ahead and try these cookies today and let me know what you think about them in the comments below. Oh, and before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. This will only help me create more such videos for our baking journey together.